Shalom Aleichem, dear brothers and sisters. Today I want to explain to you what should a Jew do in case he is forced to worship an idol. In the Torah we have a total of 613 commandments, 248 positive and 365 negative. Now what do I mean by positive and negative? Whenever God tells us to do something, like give charity, or recite the Shema in the morning and in the evening, these are called positive commandments, where God tells us to do something. Whenever God tells us to refrain from doing something, these are called negative commandments. So for example, not to kill, not to cheat. These are all negative commandments. So total of 613, 248 of them are positive and 365 of them are negative. Whenever a life is in danger, we are allowed to violate any of the 613 commandments except 3. That is, we are not allowed to violate 3 commandments even in order to save a life, even the life of ourselves or the life of somebody else. Now, what are the 3 commandments? So one of them is idolatry. We as Jews are not allowed to worship an idol even if somebody forces us and tells us, if you don't worship this idol, we are going to kill you. As a Jew, we are supposed to be willing to give up our life and not worship the idol. Another commandment, one of the 3, is murder of the innocent. So for example, if somebody forces us and tells us, kill somebody innocent or we will kill you, we are not allowed to do that in order to save our life. Obviously, in this situation, we are allowed to kill the person who's trying to kill us, in self-defense. But if it comes to somebody who's innocent, we are not allowed to do it in order to save our life or the life of somebody else. And the third exception is sexual morality. So if somebody forces a Jew and tells him or her, we are going to kill you unless you perform some sexual immorality, for example, for a man to be with somebody else's wife, or doing sodomy or something like that, a Jew is required to give up his life and not violate this commandment. Now, with that said, so we see from here that if a Jew is forced to worship an idol, it cannot be done under any circumstances, even to save your life. Now, with that said, I'm going to relate to you that over the years, throughout the centuries, during the Crusades, during the Romans, during the Greeks, during the Babylonians, during the Assyrians, as Jews, we never, well, I wouldn't say never, but as Jews generally was known that Jews were willing to give up their lives and not to betray God and worship, some idols. And the story I want to relate to you happened during the time of the Greeks, when the Greeks conquered the land of Israel, the Hellenists. And this happened probably in the year around 200 something before Common Era. And this story is mentioned in the Jewish Midrashim, several sources, and also it is mentioned by a historian by the name of Josephus. And the story is about a woman, her name was Hannah, and her 7 children. Now, although Josephus names her Miriam, so I'm not sure exactly why, maybe she had 2 names, I don't know, Hannah and Miriam, but this is the story that when the Greeks conquered the land of Israel, they captured this woman with her 7 sons. And the Greek wanted to, the Greeks, when they conquered Israel, the first thing they wanted to do is impose their religion upon the Jews, to Hellenize the Jews. And the Greek who captured Hannah and her 7 sons, he wanted all the sons to worship his god, the Greek god. And the story goes that the mother was forced to sit and watch as this Greek general was bringing out each son. And so he started with the first son, the oldest one, and they bring him out, and the Greek tells him, bow down to this statue. And the oldest son says no. And the Greek says, why not? And the oldest son says, because it says in our Torah, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God. So the Greek orders the son to be killed, and the mother is watching all this. Then they bring out the second son, and the Greek tells him, bow down to the statue. And the second son says, no. So the Greek says, why? And the second son says, because it says in our Torah, Lo yeh lecha Elohim acharim, you shall have no other gods besides me. And the Greek orders him to be killed. They bring out the third son, and the Greek tells to the third son, worship this idol. And he says, my brothers didn't do it, and I'm not gonna do it. So the Greek asks, why? So the third son says brings another verse from the Torah, while the mother is watching. And they go to the fourth son, to the fifth son, sixth son. Eventually they come to the youngest one. And the Greek guy, he's already shocked. He wasn't expecting this. He's already shocked, and he's already, doesn't know how to act. And they bring out the seventh son, and the Greek tells him, listen, you're the youngest one of them all. You have not seen life. At least your brothers, they saw life, but you have not even seen life yet. Bow down to the statue, and I'm gonna give you anything you want. And the seventh son says no. And he brings a verse. And the Greek tells him, listen, he whispers to him, you see this ring on my finger? I'm gonna drop the ring. All you gotta do is just pick it up. Just pick it up, and people will think that you actually bow down, but you just picked up the ring. You're not bowing down. And this son looks at his mother, and the mother waves her head. And the son starts screaming at this general. And he says, woe to the general. In Hebrew it's agmon. Woe to the general. You, the general, are afraid of the opinion of the people, are afraid of the opinion of the flesh and blood. That's why you're forcing me to do this. What will they think? How can I not be afraid of what God will think if I do this? And this Greek tells him, listen, he says, if your God is so powerful, why doesn't he save you right now, create a miracle and save you from my hand, like he saved your prophets in the past? And he tells him, like he saved your prophets like Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And these were the three prophets. This goes back about maybe 300 years prior to that, where Nebuchadnezzar threw three of the Jewish prophets into the fire for not worshipping an idol, and God created a miracle, saved them, brought them back. And so this Greek tells the child, why doesn't he create this miracle for you right now? And the child tells him, listen, he says, these three prophets, they were the great prophets of Israel. The capturer was Nebuchadnezzar. He was a great conqueror. But you, Agmon, you are not worthy to see a miracle performed in front of you. And this Greek orders him to be killed. Now the mother starts screaming, and she says, I swear by your head, to the general, I swear by your head you're gonna let me kiss him one more time. And she runs and grabs him. And the Midrash says she started nursing the boy. From here we see how young the boy was. Back in the days, the mother nursed maybe up to age 4 or so, and he was able to answer like that. So anyways, she started nursing him, and eventually they rip him out of her arms and they killed him. And after they killed him, the mother threw herself onto his body, onto the youngest boy's body, and she tells him, my dear son, when you go to heaven, find Abraham, our forefather, and tell Abraham, we are 7 sons of the one mother. You, Abraham, brought your son on the altar, but our mother brought 7 sons on 7 altars. For you, Abraham, this was just a test, but our mother actually performed it. And she tells this to this boy that is already dead in front of her. And then the Midrash relates that eventually she became crazy after seeing all this, and she threw herself from the roof. And this is what our ancestors been through. And this is not just a story, some fiction, some movie. No, this is a story that's related by several sources. This is a story brought down by Josephus, the historian. And not only that, in Israel today, there is a marked grave of this woman and all her 7 sons. They're still buried there today in Israel. And this is what our ancestors been through. And we live in times where it's easy to serve God. We don't have to give up our lives, and we don't have to give up our lives not to worship idols. And for me, when I first heard the story, this was really touching, because what our ancestors been through, it's nothing compared to the life we have right now. So it is up to us to continue this legacy, and make sure that we never betray God. Thank you for watching.